Hi there. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning to you. I am Kate Wade with Get Her Hired. And on the call today, I've got my colleague, Mimi Bishop. And Mimi is one of our resume writers here. She's all focused on the future of work, including your work. And we've got some good Q&A today. Maybe you'll even hop in for a little bit, depending on the questions. Maybe we can ham and egg this a little bit since it's a Get Her Hired only event, if we're open to it.
Sure.
So thanks, Mimi. So today I wanted to just come in and talk about something that I've been getting questions on. We're coming up to a time of the year that's very busy for hiring. And yet there's some mixed messages out there, mixed pieces of advice out there about how to handle hiring right now. We also just had the August US jobs report, which was not great in many ways, but I want to explain how it might be affecting you or the market right now so you can understand what that means for you, and give you just some answers to your questions. So along the way, if you've got questions, you can ask all your questions anonymously. You can either put them in the chat or you can put them in the Q&A function on the webinar here. We will not share your name. We will not call you out. You will not come on video, nothing like that. You can just ask the questions and we'll answer them for you. So please ask us all the smart questions you think are dumb. We want them all today so that we can help you make this season really work. Sometimes our clients that we see and people that come into our network are in a place of, gosh, I'll just say they're feeling a little bit down because they haven't landed that role yet. And maybe you can relate to this, like you haven't had a hard time previously landing a role, but right now in the market right now, it's a little harder than it's been before for you. So if that's something that you're experiencing, I want you to know you're not alone, and we want to make sure that um, we should give you the answers to help you move forward. Oh, we got a question already. I love this. Someone's interviewing for an internal role. Should I wear a company shirt with a logo? Oh, hell yes, go for it. Wear your logo gear, show your pride. Just as long as it's professional. If it's not like a exercise tank top with the company logo on it, rather like a nice business professional looking piece of clothing, then absolutely, I say go for that for the person who asked that question already. I love it. Not a dumb question, right? We just want to look professional. Okay. So I've got a couple poll questions just to get us warmed up here because sometimes this helps me direct some of the conversation. So let me see if I can pull this up. Yes, I've got it here. All right. So I'm going to launch a question. Which part of job hunting makes you want to throw your laptop out the window? I I posted this on LinkedIn actually the other day, and I got a number of answers like being ghosted after interviews, applying into the void, like you never hear back after applications, pretending networking's fun, dragging yourself to keep going, like, oh my God, do I have to do this another day? Okay, so we've got some answers here. Pretending networking's fun. That can be really draining. Yeah, and maybe Mimi, maybe you do want to come on camera for this because I know this is something you've got some experience in too. Um, but yeah, we're seeing pretending networking is draining and getting Mimi, hello. Getting ghosted after interviews. Okay, these are two of the ones that came in hottest, but pretending that networking is fun is the one that had the biggest results. So if this is a big pain point for people, we're coming into Q4. Q4, there's going to be some more jobs opening up, I promise you. And I'll talk about the market in a minute, but there will be more jobs opening up. And we also know that 60 to 65% of roles are found through networking. So Mimi, if you can unmute yourself, tell us like how can we make networking not have to pretend to be fun? Do you have any insights
Yeah.
on? that.
This is such a
Yeah.
great question because I personally, when someone would say networking, I would run for the hills. And what I've realized in the past, I would say 8 years, how critical it is. A couple of things. One is it doesn't have to be where you're walking in cold into a different situation, different situations, and where it's very transactional. So you may want to consider where you're networking first, and it could be a lot in places where you are already established or have a comfort level. So that's one thing to consider. You may want to think about reverse engineering from the goal. How could you leverage people who are already in your network? So networking can be networking at a conference or networking at an organization, or it can also be networking online or having virtual coffees with people, right? So if you
Mhm.
have questions about that kind of networking, like definitely drop it in the chat and I'd love to walk you through what that could look like. It could be networking on LinkedIn, it could be engaging with people on LinkedIn via really intelligent comments. So I think networking can be a lot broader than what we're used to thinking about what it is. And if we think
Mhm.
about it in more creative ways, um, it could feel a little less yuck.
Yeah. I agree, Mimi. It's when I hear it too, I think of all those sales conferences I used to go to when I was in corporate, and you're in a huge, function hall, and everyone's in their suit and they've got their stupid tags around the neck, and you're supposed to go around and shake hands and hand out business cards. And yeah, that is one way to network, but that is not the way I usually network right now.
Right.
Usually it's through today, it's like asking for an introduction to someone. Like, hey,
That's
I
right.
see Mimi, you know Jackie. Can you introduce me to Jackie? They seem really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And not being afraid to do that. And I think there's a little reluctance in the beginning, but once you realize that that's the way it works, and it's okay, you should be doing that. You
Mhm.
kind of break the ice and get over that feeling.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that one. I'm going to open another question now. Let's just get some more juice coming in. Okay, so we've got a poll open right now on your conflicting advice you're getting. What is confusing you the most? Is it that your resume, how your resume should be created? How you should focus on responsibilities, results, using the templates, keeping it clean, listing every job for there's all this advice out there that's so confusing and conflicting. And so we're having some information come in. It looks like there's a pretty even spread. All of this is confusing for people. Actually, we have a very consistent spread that this is confusing. Okay, so here is our take on it. This is the get her hired take. And you may get more advice because so many people have advice out here, but this is what we know after 6 years of doing this with hundreds of women and great people landing their interviews, right? This is what we know works. You want 2 pages. Okay, done. All right. If you're going to be doing an executive brief, which is different than a resume, that is a 1 page document, right? So that's a little bit different than a resume, though. When people are like, oh, focus on responsibilities. No, only focus on results. Here's how we look at that. We want it to be focused on results. You want to show that you can do something. Not, it's like, what was I doing the other day? It's like, oh, here's what it was. I was like, you know, I'm a real feminist. I don't go around with a feminist t-shirt on that says feminist. But in my actions and the things I do, the people I keep in my area, the ideas I have, the impacts I make, I am, showing that I'm a feminist without having to tell everyone I'm a feminist. Okay. And so when we say we want your resume to focus on results, that's exactly it. We don't want your resume to say only that I am an excellent salesperson. Cool. Great. But how do we know that? Give us some data around it. So there's a mix of responsibility, functional responsibility, as well as results that you want to have go into your resume. And we at Get Her Hired are much more results focused. So I will say that. Modern templates like Canva, love Canva. I save it for birthday invitations, however, or other things that don't need to go through a robot. Robots cannot read Canva templates. And so our advice at Get Her Hired and the templates we use that land women interviews and double their salaries, they are very simple. It looks like, it's a 2025 look and feel. However, the template is very simple so that the dumb AI robots can read it. Okay. You've got to have different formatting in there so that it can pull the sections out if you're using it for applying to job postings online. Now, if you're not applying to job postings online, you can use a colorful, beautiful template. We actually use colorful, beautiful templates in Canva for our executive briefs. Those are the one pagers that aren't being sent to robots. Those are the ones that are being sent to human beings when you're networking. Um, and then the last thing people can sometimes get that conflicting advice about is list every job for consistency. No, cut everything older than 10 to 15 years. Here's our take on this. It depends. If you're really in love with your original jobs, keep them on there. But you want to go in descending order of bullet numbers. So your most recent role is the most relevant role always for what you're doing. And so you want to go through and you can have a maximum of 10 in your most recent role. And every role before that gets fewer, fewer, and fewer. And sometimes what we will do with a client is just really consolidate that all into additional past roles section where we don't have any bullets. It's just the name of the company, the title that you had in the years you were there. And it depends. If I actually have on my resume one of my first jobs, which was serving hot dogs at a hot dog stand in Chicago. Okay. And I have that on there not because that's relevant for me to write resumes right now. I have it on there because it tells us a little bit of something about myself. Okay. It tells you some of my values, how I like to show up. Humor is important to me, and getting to know someone personally is important to me. So if you feel like you want to include something like that on your resume, I say go for it. I think it's hilarious. It's up to you though. If you feel like it doesn't belong on there or it looks unprofessional, don't put it on there. I don't put that on my clients' resumes like their first jobs, but I put it on mine because that's who I am. So there's conflicting advice, but we actually have very strong opinions. So if you ever have questions, we've got the strong opinions to help with it. Um, we've got a few questions that have come in through the Q&A, and Mimi, if you've got any answers on these, just jump in with me on the video and we can co-answer them. I'll reply in the Q&A right now. We got a question about how long do we wait for someone to respond on LinkedIn? This is a great question. And this is a timing question that we often receive. It could be after an interview or after I submit my application or after I do a reach out. Here's what I would say. If you're really worried about being ghosted. Okay. So what I'm hearing in that, how long do I wait, is there's something you're probably very interested in that you've applied to, or someone really important that you reached out to. Maybe it's a job that's like your dream job. And so you're pretty focused on it, but you're afraid you're getting ghosted or overlooked. I would say 3 days. Okay. And if it's someone you don't know yet, you might ask for someone to introduce you to that person. So let's say you did a cold outreach to someone, but they haven't replied on LinkedIn. Ask someone else you might have in common, like a second degree connection or first degree connection. Can they introduce you? Additionally, the truth is not everyone's active on LinkedIn. And keep this in mind for your future self, okay, and for your future relationships. Stay active on LinkedIn because a lot of people only go on there when they need something. And we don't want to be that person that's only out there when we need something. We want to be able to give as well. So just know a lot of people aren't active on LinkedIn. If you don't hear back from them after 3 days, try again. But after that, you need to go for volume. We really in this market need to go for volume. So don't get too hyper focused on it. Keep finding more ways to connect, more opportunities on LinkedIn. You can sometimes find their emails, or if you know how the cadence of a company's email might be, you might try to just email that person through email. They may just not check their LinkedIn. Okay, that's what I've seen. Mimi, what have you seen with that?
Yeah, similar. I would a couple of things. One is I wouldn't be afraid to reach out again because a lot of times, like Kate said, it's missed or people are getting so many. A lot of people feel like they get, I know, not feel like we get spammed a lot in LinkedIn. So don't be afraid to reach out again and again. Usually you'll just be ignored. Like that's the worst thing that can happen is you'll be ignored. And the other thing, like Kate said, think about different ways you can reach people like at different multiple touch points as well. Like try to get as creative as possible there too.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Mimi, did you see a question here that you're dying to answer?
Well, one thing I don't know if this is kind of along the same lines about responding. Um, I also would encourage people to stay in touch with people you've had conversations with, even or even interviews that maybe they went with the other person, because you never know if something else is going to open up at the organization or things don't work out with the candidate they do hire. And then
Mhm.
you're top of mind still. So don't be afraid to build a relationship with people as your, it's like that's part of ongoing networking also. And it should just become a habit. So you're not just networking when you're looking for a job, you're constantly building your network. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's true. That's true. You just never know. That's like the first question. Should I wear this company shirt with my logo on it in the interview? Yeah, be professional. Just be professional. That integrity thing, like show up and be who you are, no matter who's watching, whether you're catching a ball at the Phillies game or here if you are looking for a job. I don't know if everyone saw what happened with someone trying to catch a ball at the at the Phillies game this week, but someone got Karened on the internet. Integrity, right? Like just be who you are, because these relationships matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all
Um,
about relationships. And the second question about landing an interview for a career pivot, again, Kate, please jump in if you disagree with me, but I think the best way to do that is really through networking and building relationships, right? So, any way that you could leverage either a prior connection, or this is great where like looking to see where you might have like second or third degree connections where you can ask for an introduction could be very helpful there.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're pivoting, one thing to try again right away, and this is what we do with our clients, is we look at your core skills and strengths and we evaluate, well, how do these fit into the place you're pivoting to? So, for example, there's some obvious ones like we have sometimes people are in a nonprofit philanthropic role and they've been doing fundraising or they've been involved in we we had one recently who was the managed all of the channel relationships with corporations on behalf of the nonprofit she worked at, but she wanted to shift into nonprofit work and or excuse me, she wasn't a nonprofit, she wanted to shift into corporate social responsibility into corporate work. So what we did is we looked at, okay, what are all the skills and strengths you use right now in the role you're in right now? What are the ones that are needed in the future role? So changing from philanthropy into corporate. And how do we then make those overlap and then talk about them in a way that positions you as someone who bridges that gap and can bring that knowledge into the new space? Now, that's a really obvious one. Sometimes we have clients who have been doing like a COO and they're like, screw this, I'm done. Like, done. We're just burning this bridge down and I want to do something else. And this is then where we get to look at, okay, let's crumple up that paper, throw that out. What do you want to do? And really evaluating where you want to go. You may not have that previous experience, but since it was early in your career, you do, if you had something like that earlier in your career, sometimes we have people who've been in the Peace Corps or they've been in teaching. So that's another one I see come up is like, I used to teach, I want to go back to teaching. Um, and what you can do is just position what you've done over time in a way that tells the story of this is the thread I'm pulling through to this. This is what I've learned across my career, and this is why I'm going to be excellent at this. And then, like Mimi shared, you're probably 90% of the time going to find that first job when you pivot through someone who knows you and trusts you, right? It's hard if you don't have on paper immediate past experience. It's a little harder for people to make the logical leap that they can trust you to do this work. So if you are doing a pivot, networking is super duper important for you. You've got to use your connections to get in a trusted relationship and know your first step in your first foray into this pivot might be someplace that's temporary, short. It may not be the exact right fit to start, but it will give you that foot in the door that then you can grow from. Mimi, anything else you've seen happen for people who are looking to pivot?
Yeah, a few things. One is I would agree with everything you said. One is industry associations are always
Mhm.
great because it's like you can get in, you can, and volunteering specifically in an industry association. So this way you're kind of showing your skills in that area, perhaps, and also, building some goodwill too, and people get to know you very well. It's a really easy way to stand out in a networking situation. So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of industry associations. Um, Also, networking sometimes in philanthropic situations. So, getting on a board or something. If, especially if you can get a sense of the other people that are involved in that organization, it might give you more exposure to someone where you can work on something together, where you're bringing goodwill, and that's just a great way to create a warmer relationship a lot faster.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I totally agree that getting involved in the community in some way is a great way to meet like-minded people that you have
Mhm.
that instant trust with. So let's say I'm at the
Right.
ALS or the cancer event, which I, support these types of events that I go to. And then I strike up conversation with someone who's also at that ALS event. Immediate trust, immediate bond, immediate, hey, what do you work on? How can I help you? And that's just a
Right.
great way, especially when you're pivoting. And I just put a resource out in the chat. We love using Perplexity AI for research. So if it's not a tool you've tried, go out and try it. It is an AI tool that is like way more superpowered than a Google search. Um, with all AI, just cautionarily try not to put in personal identifying information if you can avoid it. So, for example, your social security number, your phone number, your address, like don't put that information in there because while a lot of the AI chat resources won't use your information. It is stored somewhere and we just don't know where it's stored. Okay. So just know that we at Get Her Hired use assistants, a lot of AI assistants. So the work that we create is written by us, but it's assisted through different tools that we use. And Perplexity is a great one. If you want to find industry associations and you don't know, what associations are out there, put some different questions out in Perplexity and see if that gives you some ideas of some ones to check out. Okay. Let's see. We've got a couple more questions here. What about in-person cold calls? Okay, in-person cold calls. I'm not sure what this person might mean, but like it almost sounds a little bit abrupt and scary to me, like stalky. I don't know. I'm sure whoever posted this question does not mean it, but like in-person cold calls, I wouldn't show up anywhere uninvited. I wouldn't do that. But cold calls in general, they say they've been advised to reach out to directors and higher ups in the business And can I send a cold email or do a cold call? Is this effective? Yes. I will tell you this. Last year, right around this time, okay, I've been doing this for 6 years, and I'll just tell a very transparent, vulnerable story right now. But this demonstrates something here. Okay. I thought, I have to quit. I have to close this business. It's not working, blah, blah, blah. I got to go get a job. And, I have a Costco right down the block. I'm like, I'm just going to go give out samples or stock the produce aisle, or, I'm just going to go work at Costco. I applied to work at Costco and I heard crickets from Costco. Well, then I go over and I'm chummy with some of the people at the Costco at the desk, and I'm like, "Hey, I applied. What the hell?" And they're like, "Oh my God, let me go get a manager to talk to you. We can get you in." So yes, I did do an in-person cold call by showing up at my Costco. Yes, you can phone. Yes, you can talk to the manager. Yes, you can do a cold intro. Try all the ways. Okay, just try all the ways is the thing. P.S. I never got the job at Costco because then I became a 6-year overnight success. Like I needed to be that far down to say, "Oh, I'm closing the business." To then all of a sudden, like hire a team and all this stuff. So
Always the way.
I get it, right? And like Costco didn't even call me back. You get ghosted by Costco. But like just try all the things, all the ways. Again, being professional, being respectful, you can be creative. No reason why you can't be creative about it. As you're reaching out to people, remember they don't owe you anything. Recruiters don't owe you anything. Okay. You recruiters are paid by companies, not by you. So just know that we need to be polite and professional when we're working with recruiters, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, send some cold emails, try some cold calls, reach out to directors and higher ups. Why not? Now, this is another place where we find conflicting advice at times, because some people will say, don't bother with the hiring manager or this blah, blah, blah. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. I was the kind of leader who read cover letters. And so other people are like, I don't read a cover letter. And I'm like, if I got a resume without a cover letter, I was like, who is this person? Do they even care? So just try all the ways. Mimi, what other advice do you have on that one with
I
cold calls?
completely agree with the you never know. Like, you would sometimes you're just so pleasantly surprised. The other thing is with all of this, I think that there's this tendency a lot of times we'll ask clients like, "Well, how many, emails did you send?" And, to people in general, they're like, "Well, 20." Well, you got to send like 120 sometimes, right? Like I think
Yeah,
people are always shocked by the volume. So I know
volume.
it can feel really uncomfortable and it's a drag, but you have to just be like stay on it and just keep sending and sending and sending
Yeah,
until
yeah,
something hits, and it will. But you have to be consistent with the outreach
yeah.
and
That
the
volume is
follow-up.
so important. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mimi,
And
you're so right.
strategic too. Like, I mean, you want to make sure that you're being smart about where you're fishing,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
you need to put a lot of lines in the water.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is something we see frequently, that people have tried, but the volume is too low. And it might feel like a drag at times, but if you can reframe it, this is how I look at it. You are the absolute right fit for a job out there. And they are going to be so happy to find you, and you are going to be such a lift to that team and that company. And so if you're ever feeling down, just know that what you have to give is exactly what someone needs. And while 99 of the emails you send may never come back with anything, that, like Mimi said, that one, you're going to be a real help to them. And keep that in mind. It's not that you're dragging them down. They need you. They need you. And so if you want to help, go out there with that attitude and be helpful like that. Yeah. Um, Thanks, Mimi. We got a question. I'm a certified pickleball coach. Ah, I love it. Where do I put that on my resume? Yeah, I put it at the end. I admit, like, if you want it is a great conversation starter. I love it. That could go in your LinkedIn. It could go in your headline if you want to, like, "And pickleball coach." What? Or put
Mm.
it in your about section. Put it in your, jobs section. Probably not your first job, but if it's a part-time job, put it as your second job, don't list it first, but get it in there. On your resume, again, additional at the very end, you could sprinkle that into your core competencies. You could sprinkle it into the opening paragraph. I think that says a lot about a person. And if someone put that on their document and I was reading it, I'd be like, I want to meet this person. Who is this person? This is cool. This person's got the ovaries to put their pickleball coach right on their resume. I want to talk to them. That's the kind of person we want to have around here. So go for it if it feels good to you. Um, we have a
Kate, there
question that
also
yeah,
oh,
go
there
ahead,
are also
Mimi.
some comments in the chat also that you may want to just quickly look at it.
Yeah, what do you think, Mimi? Do you wanna go for any of them?
Well, I'm gonna let
Uh,
you go for how does the intro conversation go when you reach out to VPs?
yeah, that's great. We do find that what we need to do when you're reaching out to VPs is think about what do they want to know? What is their problem, right? What is the pain that they have that they are trying to hire for and solve for by bringing someone in? And so typically, if you're going to have a conversation with a VP, it should be a conversation. It should be questions. You should have a back and forth. So, for example, one of the scripts that we give to our clients in the toolkit that they get includes how to start these conversations. How do you even ask for the conversation? So, typically, we want to ask for someone's advice and wisdom. If we think it's the hiring manager, that looks a little different than a VP that's on the team or at the company that we just want to have a listening session or an informational session with. Hiring managers is more direct because you're going to say, I see you're hiring for this role. I think these are the 3 reasons why I would be a great fit. My resume is attached and I'd enjoy meeting with you to talk about this further. Okay, that's a hiring manager. If you're talking to a VP and it's not directly related to a role you're applying to, you're having an informational conversation. And so we ask for, can you share some advice and wisdom about what it's like to work at X company? What are the biggest, I see you've got some roles posted over here and I'm interested in them. I haven't applied yet, but what do you see as the biggest challenge and what would you need someone to come in for? Just just be human, be curious, and again, be professional. We definitely want to keep that going all the time. But if you're interested, the person who posted about reaching out to VPs, if you want to email Mimi at getherhired.com or Kate at getherhired.com, you can just go ahead and send us a note on email and we'll send you over that conversation guide that we have. Actually, anyone on this call, email Mimi or me. We'll send you that conversation guide that we've put together for that informational call. It's got a whole script and the agenda, exactly how to run that call. We're giving it to you today. Okay. You guys deserve it. You need it. We're giving it to you. Um, I want to answer a question that came in the Q&A, Mimi, and it's about ATS. Okay. And we get this is interesting one. Get Her Hired has very I will say this. I have very distinct opinions on ATS. So here's what ATS is, right? ATS is an applicant tracking system. Applicant tracking systems are used by almost every company now, and they are typically AI-based processors that will parse the language that you send in. So let's say you send in your resume. What it's doing is it's pulling apart the different sections you've sent over, right, into the format that their HR team or the recruiter wants to read it in that format. So it basically is taking what, let's say they got 10 applications, usually it's more like 1,000,
Mhm.
but it's taking all of that and putting it into the same format so the recruiter or the HR team can read apples to apples. Okay, so you can see everything across and just see it all together in general. Like that's the simplest way of thinking about it is it's reformatting it. And that's why we have very simple formatting in our resumes so that when our clients are applying to jobs online, the tools have a very easy job pulling the information into the right sections of the software. Now, the next things that ATSs do is they are looking for a percentage of keyword match. Okay, so here's the thing about that. We don't use any ATS tools. Okay, I'll just clarify that. We don't care. And if you want an ATS resume, you can buy one online for $99. That's going to be AI created that will have a percentage of keyword match for a job. Great. Okay. But here's the deal. We don't care because we work with people that have real results and real skills. And so we can create a differentiated resume that has the things that need to be seen in the resume, all right, when we're writing it, but also then that get through the ATS. Now, the thing is, when we try to game the ATS, it's kind of like this. Mimi, do you like Thai food or yeah,
Hmm. I do.
okay. Okay. When you go to the restaurant, they're like, what level of heat do you want? Right? And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know, what's a five? You
Right.
know, it's exactly the same thing with ATS. We don't know is are they looking for a 50% match to the words? Are they looking for 80% match to the words? Just like we don't know how big the spoon is someone's got for all the chilies in the Thai kitchen. Like, am I going to die when I have this at a five? Or is it going to be okay? I love Thai food, but I also can't do too much spice because I'm a white girl over here. So, so, um, I would say with the ATSs, take it with a grain of salt because you never know what the algorithms calculated at on the back end. And so you might try to make a 90% match for all the keywords in a job description, and you're making yourself insane. And typically that happens when people are, I'll just, no, I don't want to use that analogy. Let me come up with a better one. Hang on. Okay. So it's kind of like being in a parade at the 4th of July. And I never knew this because in Chicago, where I grew up in parades, they didn't do this, but they do this in small towns, right? They throwing out candy everywhere, all up and down the street as they're going up and down through parades. In Chicago, we did not do that at the parades. But it's like you're at a parade, you're throwing candy everywhere. And, it's just, is it landing? Is it not? Is it getting picked up by the street sweeper? Did some kid get 10 candies and one kid only got one candy? Who knows? Right. And so when we're taking this approach of just throwing our resume out there and matching it everywhere, it's really hard to understand if it even matters. So around ATS, our thing is who cares? Write a damn good resume that represents your capabilities. And just like we were talking earlier, try all the ways to get that resume in front of someone. Okay. Try the networking, try the introduction, try the cold outreach, show up at your Costco. Just go ahead and try all the ways with it. And when you can get it in front of a human being, you're winning. If it stays stuck in a computer, you're not going to win. I posted for a job for our company and I got 500 applications and only 20 people reached out. I got 500 like quick apply applications. 20 people reached out. Do you know who I interviewed? Those 20. Okay. But that's how I work. Other people, there is a 20 to 25% chance you will get a job through an application, but the chances are higher that if you apply and you reach out, you'll actually get your application notice because I had 500 to go through, or I could have 20 to go through. We just got a question of, speaking of the quick apply, here's my thought on quick apply. No, just don't. Just don't. I I don't know. LinkedIn is there to make money, okay? It's a database. It's there to make money as a database, and so it's collecting data. It makes money off the person who posted the job. The quick apply, I just I'm not a fan. Maybe I've been blathering on and on and on and on. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what you see in any of these areas I've been blathering about?
Um, well, actually, I wanted to point out there's a great question here. Or actually, two
Mm.
things. One is, I love this feedback. Someone had said that they applied for a job in January of 2025 and finally got an interview for the position July 28th, 2025. I email the poor HR person every 2 weeks. I think that's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
Oh,
You were probably top of mind. The person was probably very impressed by your resilience. Like
see?
that's key. Yeah.
Yes.
And the other thing is also, especially when times are so uncertain, you don't know about all the moving parts on the back end of the organization. So maybe someone left, maybe, there are lots of different things that could happen that could impact the response time or delay it. And it may not be hiring freezes, right? It just might be certain dynamics or things that are changing that you just don't have any control over and can't even imagine what it is. So that's why just constantly staying top of mind, you can send an email, just bubbling this up again, friendly reminder, those kinds of things are very could be very helpful. There's
Mhm,
also a
mhm.
question, Kate. Should every resume be tweaked to the job that they're applying for?
Hmm. I have to pause on that because I have thoughts.
Okay. Okay.
Yes and no, or my German, jein, ja, nein. So here's how we look at it. We take the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, okay? Basically, but we want to keep 80% of your resume static. It does not change, okay? 20% will change. And of that 20%, only about 20% changes. So very little should change. I would say the way we develop a resume, you've got your name, your headline, a little about paragraph, your skills. Below the skills is your experience in education, volunteer, da 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 da, to the end of 2 pages. I want everything below the fold, so from experience and below, not to change. That does not change. Okay. Experience, education, volunteer, projects, patents, blah, 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 organizations, certification stays the same. So if we're looking at the top above the fold, so if you're thinking of a newspaper in a newspaper box on the street, right? What's at the top of page one? We want to modify in there just so we can catch the eye, just like you would if someone was walking down the street looking at a newspaper. And so you want it to reflect some of the language of the application. This is where I would say you're changing out some keywords. You might put in the title of the job that you're applying to. You might change out the skill name. So, for example, some people might call it cross-functional communication, right? So let's say you have cross-functional communication, or let's say strategic communication, and they call it collaborative communication. Change it to collaborative communication. If it's cross-functional collaboration, but in your words, you have team collaboration, change it to cross-functional. It's just small stuff like this. If they call it transformation, but you call it change, call it transformation, right? So we're just changing up very small things, but the essence of your content really is staying very, very similar to what it's been. If you've got to really bend your resume to fit, you probably need to do a new resume.
Mm.
Mimi, other thoughts on that?
Um, no, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think I love what you said about the making sure that it aligns with what they're calling. Like, so just keep in mind, like, you don't want them to have to think that much. That you want
Mhm.
them to see your resume or your cover letter and it to jump out. So if they have to think, oh, is this the same role that we're hiring for? That might be too much work on their part, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
so anything that you can do on your end to make it easy for the person who's looking at it because they're probably scanning, you want to
Right.
put that little extra work into it.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. But don't take more than 20 minutes. So 80, 20, 20, 20. 80% stays the same. The top 20% is what changes. Of that, only about 20%, and then only spend 20 minutes. If you're gonna, because otherwise, it'll go crazy. But here's the thing, like, this is for when you're applying to a job through an online open requisition, right? But if you can get your resume to a human being, you don't have to change it. A
Right.
human being that you're getting it in front of them, they'll be able to make the they're smart people. They're going to be able to make the logical leap in most cases and see, if you have transformation and they call it change management, fine, they get it. So this is all to say, don't only apply to open jobs that you see posted, because in so many ways, this is reactionary. You're missing out on so many jobs that are never even posted out there. And you're competing against 500 to 1,000 other people. Whereas if you get it in front of a human being, like in my example, I had 500 applications and 20 reached out to me personally. Those are the ones I looked at. Do that. Yeah.
There's a great question about how do you follow up on an application when you only get a no reply automatic email confirming the
Mhm.
company has received the application and there's no portal or there's no HR name. That's when LinkedIn can be a great tool. So go on LinkedIn, put the
Mhm.
email, not the email, put the company name that you've applied and see who comes up. And see, you might have someone that you're a first degree connection, you had no idea that you worked with them. Or there could be a second degree connection, and I would try reaching out to that person.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So if you've applied, that's exactly right, Mimi. You want to go a little bit Sherlock Holmes here. Okay. So we're gonna just go and solve this mystery. So what would you do? Take this energy. Okay. So if you had a kid, and let's say you wanted to get that kid into the last cool position at the summer camp that they're going to, or maybe it's their J term at college, and you want to help them get into the best J term over in Barcelona in January to do their in-depth study of something. What would you do? How much energy would you put into getting your kid in that J term? Or let's say it's your doggy and you want to get your doggy in the Westminster Dog Show, okay? And you've come along a long ways, but you got to do the things now to get them in the Westminster. What would you do? How much energy would you put into it? So take at least a fraction of that kind of energy and put it into the Sherlock Holmesing of finding a person at the company. And key point on this though, don't just stop at one person, find 5 people. Because just like way earlier in our conversation, we were saying not everyone's on LinkedIn, or they're on LinkedIn, but they only come on when they need a job, right? And so otherwise LinkedIn is dead to them. So that's why you find 5 people, because again, volume. You want to finally get in front of human being eyes. All right. So that's how I would do that. We had a question come through. In order to get through and be seen by the ATS, is it effective to update my resume with keywords listed in the job description I'm applying for? So I think we addressed that. And then secondarily in this question, is it smart and acceptable to use ChatGPT to help with this process? Yes. And not only is it smart and acceptable, but it's going to save you a lot of time. Now, we use ChatGPT, we use Gemini, we use Claude, we use Perplexity. There's a number of different tools that we use at Get Her Hired to assist us in this process. We never take what was given to us really by the bot and take it just as what it is. We are always going back through double checking it for clarity, double checking it for reality, double checking it for over embellishment, or sometimes she's a liar. Sometimes she just makes up data. Sometimes she doesn't know what question you're asking. And so you have to have good follow-up questions and really make sure that you are asking the right questions, so that as you are updating your resume, and again, to the person who's asking this, is it acceptable to update your resume using ChatGPT? Yeah, only the top part though, when we're talking about customizing it to a job. I wouldn't put your whole resume through it. Definitely not every time, because you're going to wind up with, here's my fear. You're going to wind up with a resume that looks like 500 other resumes, because ChatGPT is a large language learning model. And it's just kind of, remember those word clouds we used to have back in the early 2000s that we thought were really cool, right? And in a word cloud, a word is bigger when it's used more frequently, right? And it shows up bigger in a word cloud. And if the word is used less frequently, it's a smaller word in the word cloud. And what can happen when, especially if we're not careful in using ChatGPT or other language tools, is that that words that are big in the word cloud start showing up in everybody's resume everywhere.
Mhm.
And you don't know that because you're not an AI expert who knows how language learning models work, who knows how machine learning works, right? Like, we don't know that, but like, this is what's happening because it's learning from itself. And so the more these words are used and reused and reused and re-put in and taken out and re-put in, the language model becomes much more homogeneous. And so one of the things that I've seen over time as a trend is that job descriptions can get more homogeneous, and the resumes to fit those job descriptions get more homogeneous because we're using the same tools and the same language. That's why with a writer, with a writing team, with a company like Get Her Hired, we can help you stand out and not get lost in the AI soup of jargon, keywords, and nothing about you. Like, yeah, put your fucking, excuse me, put your pickleball coaching on there. Put my hot dog selling on there. Put some interesting stuff about you on there that's only about you. Again, your skills and your strengths. Lots of other people will have your skills that are the same. They're going to have a similar skill set. Like Mimi and I can both write, right? But we write in different ways because we have different strengths in our writing. We both can write. We have different strengths. And so you want to have a resume that really shows, yeah, I've got the skills, but here's how I do it. And that'll really help you. I want to just address something about the LinkedIn Quick Apply. How did I post the job in the first place? I posted it on LinkedIn. Okay. And I got 500 applications. And as soon as I looked at the first 5, which came in within 5 minutes of me posting it, I was like, oh, this is bullshit. Like, I can't. And most of the people applying were not qualified, even though I had clear qualifications in my job description, right? And so I just, as a job recruiter, hiring manager, was overwhelmed. And I'm sure other people feel this is overwhelming. And so instead of looking through all of those applications, the 20 people who actually reached out are the ones I followed up with. And I believe that that will probably work across many situations. How did they reach out? They emailed me, or they LinkedIn direct messaged me. Okay. So we just got that question. How did those 20 people reach out? LinkedIn DM, email.
Yep. When I actually applied for the job with Kate, I think I reached out, I looked at who else was in your company and I direct messaged them also.
Okay.
And just said,
Yeah.
I applied. I'm so looking forward to having a conversation, blah, blah, like that kind of. So anything you could do to have those different
Yeah. And
touch.
I was like, Mimi, you're applying to work with me? Oh my God, you're hired.
But we knew one another. So that goes back to, but still, even though we knew each other pretty well, I still use those other touch points because I didn't know what would be important to you in the hiring process for this.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, just the volume. That's a really good point. Again, like, more than you think.
Yeah. There was a
More than you think.
really good question in here that I
Yeah.
didn't want it to get lost. It's how
Yeah, please.
it's about, and I'm really curious to hear your point of view, Kate.
Mhm.
It was about VP, about reaching, and the gist of it is, and I hope that I'm catching this correctly. It's like building relationships at the VP level, and people. Great, here it is. Should you worry about your management being upset by your guts to reach out to VP to start dialogue? How do you navigate that dynamic?
Ooh,
That's a
that's a
good
coaching
question.
conversation.
Yeah.
Um, Always internally, you don't want your boss to be surprised. So let's just go back to being professional. Like, you wouldn't want to be surprised that your sister triangulated around you and went to your grandma to ask her to be put first in the will.
I love your analogies.
So don't do that. Let your manager know that you're going to have a conversation with the VP and how that fits into your learning and development plan or your professional career development. Sometimes we have difficult relationships with our direct managers. I know there can be conflict there. It's usually fear-based. Um, this is a great question to talk to a coach about. So if you need a coach to help you through this specific situation, you can reach out to Mimi at Mimi Bishop at getherhired.com and ask her. Um, I don't coach. I don't have the patience for it because I just want to tell you what to do. And this is what I tell everyone. I'm like, I'm done coaching. I am a coach, but I'm not patient enough. But again, just being professional, treating everyone with respect. Don't try to go around someone because the motivation behind that reveals that you're acting out of fear. I'm just going to say it. You're acting out of fear. You're acting out of ambition. You think you're going to be told no. You think you're going to be put in your place, but you want to do it anyway. You're just like setting up pre-drama situation. Like, so if you want that drama, go for it. Otherwise, talk to Mimi or another coach. And, think about, well, how can I do this professionally so that when it comes back to me, I don't have to pit out and start sweating, right? Like,
Right.
because the VP will say, hey, I talked to this person on your team. They are going to say, hey, manager, I talked to this person on your team. And you don't not want your manager to be surprised. Anything else you'd share on that, Mimi? Because I've seen this happen well, and I've seen it happen poorly when I was in corporate.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on the culture, right? Some
Yeah.
cultures really encourage this kind of dynamic, and some are very threatened by it. So I think it depends on the unique situation.
Mhm.
I think what you said
Mhm.
about the way you show up and the energy of this whole outreach could be really important, because if you're doing it like, I know I shouldn't, but I'm doing it. I think unpacking that also through the coaching process can be interesting.
Mhm.
Um, so there are lots of nuances to it. Um, Personally, also though, I think it's a great practice to always be building relationships across, above and
Yes.
across the organization anyway. So this
Mhm.
is always important, but there are different nuances to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And some great ways to do that if you enjoy the company you're in, but want to move around or pivot within the company. Right now, we've got a client over in Germany. She's an engineer, and she works in semiconductors, right, as an engineer, but she wants to move into marketing, right? Cool. She loves the company, right? But like, how can she get into marketing when she's an engineer? And so yeah, you get put on projects. You start asking about it. You start asking if you can contribute on X project or get mentored by someone in that marketing team to see how could I be involved in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that curiosity, Sherlock Holmesing things, volume, yeah, all sorts of good stuff. We're at time, Mimi.
Oh, wow.
I
This is
didn't
so
even
much
get to my
fun.
PowerPoint deck or all of the poll questions. Maybe we should just do this again next week. I don't know. But next week we have a recruiter on. Next week we've got Steel Recruiting. So Diane Steele from Steel Recruiting is going to be on our undeniable session next week. And we're going to talk with her about all your questions you might have for a recruiter. She specifically recruits for roles like chief of staff, executive assistant to the CEO. So those kinds of roles that are at the very top level of organizations that are in assisting type positions or that support C-level. That's the type of thing she hires for. So she's got great insights into what the C-level is looking for, the V-level is looking for. And so if you want to come on that next week, we'll be talking with her. And again, if any of the tools we've talked about today could be helpful for you, please just send us an email at kate@getherhired.com or mimi@getherhired.com, and we would be happy to send that to you. I'll just put these in the notes right now. Anything else, Mimi?
Just keep going. I know sometimes it can be discouraging, but just one step at a time. And the other thing is also make kind of like challenge yourself. So it's like maybe I'm going to do 5 outreaches and then I'm going to get a manicure. I know it sounds corny, but it really makes a big difference, or
Mm,
having a quota each day, right? And kind of pacing
yeah,
yourself breaks it up also.
yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone. Get out there, just do it. Just know that you are going to be the person that is going to come in and be so helpful at your new organization and bring that energy to it. So good to see you, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.